would take precedence over, these archaeological rocks and inscriptions on clay. And so it's a matter of which physical data point will take priority to help us make decisions about how to interpret the Bible. So,
But doesn't the Bible, as
as far
Hoffmeier
as
says, doesn't the Bible actually clarify to us how to translate certain words, like, for example, the word elect elsewhere in the Old
well, I'll
Testament
tell you
means
something.
plan or unit?
Jesus said, if you don't believe me, believe the works. There is a sense that the observations of the physical world will give us some information about how to understand God's creation and even history. So,
I don't think you heard what
I'm
I just
not,
said.
I'm
I
not
said the
saying that
Bible.
I think Walton,
If
I
I'm going to
would
take
trust
if I'm going to
geneticists
take a
more than
faithful
Walton.
appreciation of what the Bible says, I will allow the Bible to dictate to me in its original language that I should not be forcing the text to read a certain way. Rather, the text is telling me that the word aleph can mean a military unit or like a clan,
Well,
not
on,
literally
on
a
the
thousand.
larger issue, you're appealing to these, what I call the Ugaritic hermeneutic, these pagan cultures to help try to understand the Bible. I'm just
Not
suggesting
necessarily.
that
That affirms the history of the
genetics,
Bible.
we have genetics, we have means of inferring maybe some of the dates of the fossil record, and 40 years ago when I started in creationism, I was a theistic evolutionist. There wasn't the data we have now, and things are getting clearer. So we could say maybe Walton could be wrong. Do you think he's absolutely right, or he could be wrong?
I think he's right based on the research he's doing within the parameters of his research method, around the subject of his research. Because he's dealing with translating these texts and analyzing these, basically comparative literature that practically everyone in this room, myself included, don't know how to translate these from their context because we're not specialists in that field. We don't know Sumerian, we don't know Akkadian. And this person that's saying, how does determining ages to a base 60 rather than the base 10 change exponential degradation? That's assuming that the author of the Sumerian King List is aware of base 10. So since they're functioning in a base 60 sense, why do we impose a base 10 sort of like a, retrojecting back into the text? Like, what would it be like if we convert a base 60 to a base 10? That's nonsensical. That's a form of eisegesis on the Sumerian King List.
So, do you believe those ages? The Sumerian King List?
Obviously not, because they're not literal ages. I just said they're base 60.
I believe the Janus view that the Earth is quintillions of years old.
So how old were they then?
You can't determine that because they're not meant to be converted to based on numbers.
Well, I'll say this: Walton should study the literature we've had here. You're encouraging us to study his stuff. You should study ours that we put forward. Maybe he might
I'm
learn
using him as an
something.
example, by the way. He's not the only one saying this.
Well, they should study it too. This is important stuff.
Oh, I agree. That
I mean,
was my
they're
previous
taking
question.
priority over their interpretation of stuff that no one knows for sure. We have genetics here. Not that we have a preservation of the genetic record in our genes across all the people here.
That was my
And this
initial
is a
question to
testable
Sam, by the way.
hypothesis, which I could say we have. This is a testable hypothesis in that we can see over the next generations if our genomes are deteriorating according to models like what John Sanford had that SFT brought up. I mean, if that starts to show genetic decay, what are the scholars going to say? Will the work take priority of what we're actually observing in our genes?
I already told them about the Table of Nations, the 16 grandsons of Noah, that there is nobody else.
And in this article, which I highly recommend reading, goes into exactly what we're talking about here with the Sumerian kings list quite thoroughly. And they go into a pretty detailed hypothesis for explaining the similarities in numerical structure and magnitude of the two totals is as follows. For sake of time, I'm not going to go through it all, but I think it's pretty strong. A strong hypothesis. And going back to what Sal said, it's the Bible that the holy men spake as they are moved by the Holy Ghost. It's the Bible that claims to be the inspired word of God. It's the Bible that claims to be the true history of the universe. So we have no reason to take what appears to be an exaggerated account here with the Sumerian kings list and the original source for the history of humanity found in Genesis, which just so perfectly matches up to this data that we've been talking about in genetics. I mean, we know what causes disease. We know what causes aging. We know why we die. I mean, all the information points us right back to a time, the golden age, which you find legends and legends and legends about, where people did live to 900. And here's the thing, the biblical account is not exaggerating these ages to the point of like 36,000 years like the Sumerian king list. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, we have Adam who lived to what, 900. We had, for example, we know that's possible based on the genetic data that Sal, for example,
but standing with all due respect, how is that an exaggeration? I mean, aren't you straw manning the author of the Sumerian king list? Because the author of the Sumerian king list will turn around and say to you, I'm not writing a base 10 here. You can write exaggerated numerals in a different base system. So base 60 obviously is an exaggeration, if we're thinking in base 10 terms.
Hey, Don, you have an explanation for the Y chromosome deal from the last discussion we had?
The Y chromosome for the chimpanzee between humans?
Yeah, I'm pretty tired, but I'll try to relay what I remember. I'm already drawing a blank. Hang on a second. Let me think. Something about gene death and substitution, and
you want me to reiterate the argument?
High sperm gene death and substitution, and high sperm competition in the genus Pan. Something like that.
Here, just a second. I have a few people. I'm not sure if you want me to answer that question. It looks like Jamie wants to say something on screen. I don't want to. You want me to reiterate the argument, or Jamie, did you have something you wanted to add, my good man?
No, go ahead and finish what you're saying. I can wait.
So the Y chromosomal dissimilarity between chimpanzees and humans, Jackson, why they're only about 35% the same when we consider overall gene content, architecture, and size differences.
Yeah, I was saying it's because of substitution, gene death, and high sperm competition in Pan genus. So
you're saying the odd man out is the chimpanzee?
Well, no. The paper I read was talking about all the grade A Y chromosomes. I'm just comparing the ours.
Well, because you know that the human Y chromosome and the gorilla Y chromosome is actually more similar when you consider overall architecture, gene content, size differences than humans and chimpanzee Y chromosome. But apparently we're supposed to be closer to the chimpanzee.
Well, the rest of the genome shows that,
Right. So your point is the human Y chromosome and the gorilla Y chromosome are not rapidly changing, but the chimpanzee Y chromosome is.
You can't do the rest of the genome because the Y chromosome is non-recombining. It's paternal. It's a paternal line, father to son, all the way.
Right. But Jungle, Jackson's argument here is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jackson, you're saying the human Y chromosome, the gorilla Y chromosome are not rapidly changing in the same way that the chimpanzee Y chromosome is. Therefore, the chimpanzee is the odd man out, the reason why the chimpanzee Y chromosome and the human Y chromosome are so different is because the chimpanzee is their Y chromosomes rapidly changing due to increased substitutions and sperm competition. Is that your argument essentially?
Something like that. Yeah. Don't shoot the messenger. That's just what I read.
But see, here's the problem though, is we have very low Y chromosomal variation in the human population. Every single male Y chromosome nearly identical. But we also now know that the Y chromosome mutates extremely fast in humans. Okay? Some say as fast as 2 per generation. And there's only, I think, roughly 300 mutations separating any 2 male Y chromosomes on the planet, which means it only takes a couple hundred generations to rack up that amount of DNA differences in the Y chromosome. So how in the world do you have a Y chromosome that's mutating so fast in humans, but you also have a Y chromosome with incredibly low variation? That means the male Y chromosome cannot go back hundreds of thousands of years to millions of years. It has to be young. If it's mutating fast, but then there's like low variation, that means it could not have been mutating fast for very long. There's really only a couple hundred to a few hundred generations max in the Y chromosome is my point. So how do you stack that up with your argument here?
I don't know. I guess I'll have to do more research. You've got me again.
No, don't worry. No, it's a technical argument. It's a good line of evidence. The chimpanzee, there's chimpanzee populations you're saying that are kind of like polygamous. They're a little crazy when it comes to reproduction, right? So there's a lot of sperm competition and therefore a lot of see, I've read those papers because that was Gutsy Gibbons' argument, and other people tried to say, well, faster gene conversion, things like this, but at that point, it's just a hypothesis because in the papers and then feedback articles that I read, according to in terms of that explanation for why the Y chromosome is so different, they admitted like this is our story, this is our hypothesis, but they haven't really tested it. I mean, I haven't seen any numbers to account for, let's say the common ancestor between humans and chimps. The chimpanzee is kind of our closest cousin. We go back to a common ancestor between 6 and 13 million years ago.
Something like Australopithecus.
Yeah, so if that answer you're providing is empirical, I mean, for it to be any more than just like a story or a rescue device to explain why the Y chromosomes are different, we would need empirical data, numbers. How can we get such massive differences in architecture, gene content, and size differences within this 7 to 13 million years? It needs to be accounted for. You can't just say, well, maybe this, and then consider that scientific. Does that make sense, Jackson?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because even for sake of argument, if that was the case, can that really account for such massive differences? I mean, they're like massive regions in the Y chromosome of chimpanzees that's not even found in the human Y chromosome, which means at some point since the split, there must have been like these massive gene variations. There must have been so much that there's really no evidence that we even.
Well, bacteria did evolve to eat citrate, so that's probably enough.
What do you say?
Never mind.
Oh.
Just let me know. I got my screen share when you're done.
No. That's a good argument, though, Jackson, because that is the argument that I've heard and I've read. I think everything that I could on it to see if there's really any backing to it. And from the last time I checked, I haven't really tested that hypothesis. But yeah, they're saying.
Hey, can you all hear me? Is my mic functioning?
Oh yeah, it's functioning.
Yeah.
Is my
Like
mic functioning? Okay.
Kenny, listen up because I want you to tell me how I'm retarded later, but you can help me.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right.
Hey, standing
Rob,
with
Rob.
all this genetic entropy talk and stuff, how can you tell, say, like what a person might be, or say, possibly like get insight into who they are by, tracing them back to maybe closer ancestors? For example, let me use myself as an example. I traced myself back through Ancestry.com to Noah, but I have closer relatives by the name of Richard Simmons, the exercise guru. Okay, he's a cousin. Billy Ray Cyrus and Miley Cyrus, cousins. Also, an anomaly there, very handsome Clint Walker, the cowboy star. Does that mean I'm just kind of destined in my hillbilly status and can't really get above it? What does that say about me?
Everybody's got relatives like that.
It sounds.
I
like
mean,
you-
I am the.
It sounds like
My
you have a
father-in-law
very
says I'm the
strong-
first generation to wear shoes. So
Listen, Kenny, you should be very proud of your genetic composition.
The hills have
and
eyes.
ancestry. You know, that's
Yeah.
it sounds
Go back.
strong, brother.
You go back
Yeah.
10 generations, we're all related. Or even
you know,
five.
actually, another little insight into the mysterious Kylo Ken. Who is he anyway? But I am a descendant of Francis de Rhodes, who was the right-hand general of William the Conqueror. That's why I put fear into people when I open my mouth these days, but that's the ground of it all.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Exactly.
And the Queen of England is my 10th cousin.
That's kind of cool.
Alexander
My
Hamilton.
best friend's related to Robert E. Lee, so there.
And George Bush is
My wife's related to JFK.
eighth removed from George Bush. So everybody's like that.
6 degrees of
Yeah,
Kennedy.
I'm a. There you go. Yeah, Big Bill Taft also, who was the president and the only Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. That's why I try to boss you around and file legal suits against everybody I know. President and lawyer, or president and judge.
Richard Dawkins is my cousin.
All right, so here, Rob, this is God sent me to test your patience, but hold on a second. So, give me a second to flesh this out before you interrupt me, anybody. I think the flood story.
Hey, Jamie.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. That really helps. So the flood story is obviously used in the New Testament or you could infer that it's a picture of Christ, being the ark and all that.
Oh, wait, hold on. I just inferred that you're retarded. There you go.
Okay. Just now? Not yet. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I can do it again, but I'll
Well,
be watching.
Okay, good. So there's a picture of. I think the story of the flood is a picture of salvation, and then Jesus says is in the days of Noah, that sort of thing, right? That's what he says about his coming or whatever. And so with that in mind, I think God writes history like that kind of thing in mind, right? Like there's pictures. The Old Testament, the Israelites were a example for us, right? So, anyways, I think this is interesting that Methuselah begets Lamech, I think, right? Or yeah, Methuselah.
Well, to quote Captain Jack Sparrow, there's a difference between what a man says and what a man is.
Okay, so at 300, then Methuselah lives. Then Methuselah lives 187 years. So we got 300, and then 187, and then I believe
Divide by 2.
no.
Oh, times by 2.
So yeah, so you got 300.
Could be C squared.
And then he lives 187 years right here. And then Lamech, let's see. When he
Okay,
has
get to the point. Land the plane.
When you
like
add
the
them
White
up,
House
and
all the
then
time.
it says Noah. So the 187 plus 182, 369.
Land the plane. Land the
369.
plane. I'm not a mathematician. Land the plane.
And then it says
1,656 years.
no, not the 300, just the 182. I think is when Lamech is born, and then he has Noah at 182, 180, and then 182 and 187. That's 369, and then it says in the 600th year, Noah.
Just ask Raul Matt. He's actually the expert on this stuff, but he follows
The fountains of the great deep blow open at 600 year of Noah's life. So you add those up, and it's 369 from Methuselah to Noah. Okay, 969. So the flood comes the year Methuselah dies. he dies at 969. So Methuselah died from the text. Methuselah dies the year.
Wait! Breaking news: Smokey's volunteered to come in and shut you down if anybody would like or upon request. Just station identification.
Those are just facts. Those are just facts.
He's never gonna shut down the queue.
Let
Methuselah died
let
the year of
Jamie
the flood.
finish. Let Jamie finish his point.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with you Americans and butting in. Here in Australia and especially in Europe, we allow people to talk.
It's called ADHD, Rob. Jamie and I have a very severe case of it, so we understand one another. So there you go.
All right, I'll forgive you.
I seriously do want your input on this. And on a serious note, Kenny.
Me or Rob, because I haven't been paying attention.
Well,
to
you
it, so
like, still
retarded.
waiting for Rob's response, but because I brought
Okay,
it up.
Rob needs to
You've
respond because
interviewed,
I've concluded that you're a retard and I just
Well,
haven't
good.
been paying
We're
attention
done.
at all. I've been picking my nose. I got this booger that is really bothering me.
He's just mad because I'm a better drummer than him.
So Methuselah died the year of the flood.
I doubt it. I'm just joking. No, so there's more to it. My point is this: I think God, this is like providence or whatever. But so Methuselah to Noah, it shows in the text from the numbers given. At least I think it's the Septuagint version, because I know there's different. It's different than Masoretic or whatever. But you see that Methuselah dies the year the flood comes. Now I know all the scholars say his name should be translated only by two roots. There's a couple different options that have been offered over the years: man of the dark, man of war, etc. But that's only break. But if you do break the word down into three roots, it can say at his death it comes. Okay, and so I don't think that's a coincidence that he dies and the flood comes. And you see in Second Peter, and I always want to think.
I think I get where you're going.
Yeah,
I think they're both and. I think they can be providentially designed. For example, that Methuselah died this year on this day, and it can fit within the symbolism of the ancient Near East way of communicating. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Yeah.
In Second
What do
Peter,
you think, Rob?
I disagree.
Sorry.
Second Peter, even
Beautifully disagree, though.
That's
the only time I don't allow concordism.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, okay, but like with what Jesus says, the picture of the story. Okay, does that mean it's fake? I think no. I think it's both and in that sense too. Like God's providentially ordering.
Okay.
But hold on, I'm almost done.
Okay.
Second
By the
Peter,
way, I'm not a progressive dispensationalist, so I don't really find the already not yet hermeneutic motif
I love that.
usable, but I think philosophically it's a necessary distinction. Anyway.
So in Second Peter, if you want to share it, you can. I'm just going to look at it real quick. It seems to me the context of Second Peter, whenever we can correlate what they're saying in the Old Testament, it makes sense. So he's talking about prophecy and the flood, and God, and he says God's long suffering, and I think he may have had in mind Methuselah lived more years than any other man before, and that's when God sends the flood. And in that sense, God's long suffering because he affords. So my point is just that when you correlate the fact that the ages correlate with that idea, and then you look at the data that Standing showed with the decay curve, it seems to be like it's actually a thing. And so that would also tie the flood within those ages or whatever. I don't know how you can make that. Maybe you can make that work with the whole Earth model. I don't know. It doesn't. But it seems to me that those things can't be ignored. I don't know. Go ahead. I'm done.
I've heard absolutely nothing tonight that is contrary to the reasons to believe old Earth, young Adam, humanity model. Everything perfectly fits in.
I've heard absolutely nothing tonight that suggests that we can be separated from the love of Kyle Kim.
Well, thank you.
I do data points.
I'm working on a song, by the way, and this is serious. I'm going to redo Johnny Cash's "Hurt" because it's kind of a life theme, but I'm going to dedicate it to you there, Rob.
Last thing.
All right.
The scholars do not seem to be sure or proficient about how we should understand the names and the possible translations. It seems like they're kind of out to lunch on that, or they're just not sure. Maybe we just can't know, but I don't think that can be ignored anyway. Thanks.
By the way, Ken, I suggested that basically what I'm saying is we can't be separated from your love. That's what I was saying. So.
Amen.
Okay, well, let me dedicate this to you. Oh, it's out of tune. I hurt Rob's feelings today
Today,
Ronnie.
because I didn't agree. I can't do it out of the guitar.
Oh, dang, that was good.
I have standards.
I gotta say, Kenny, that's actually pretty good as I eat this cereal here. Keep going.
You know,
Right.
I actually can sing and play guitar, but I'm a much better
he's a
drummer.
drummer too.
Yeah, that is my
Talented man.
my
All right.
specialty is drumming.
Standing.
I'm a teacher. I'm a legend in my own mind. I'm arrogant, but I'm cute.
Yes. All right. Now to answer Jamie's question. In fact, just to again show everyone here, this is what specialists in the field of biblical linguistics point out. So here's a little sidebar. This is the Faith Life Study Bible. So Lexham Press. They'll point out, look, there's this thing called the Sumerian King List, and it's interesting that if you were to add up the ages from Adam to Moses, it comes down to 12,600 years, which is similar to the 1260 figure in Daniel and Revelation. And so then scholars with respect to Daniel, the Daniel tradition will add this point and wonder, like, did Daniel get this 1260 figure, and did John and Revelation get the 1260 figure by the Second Temple edition of adding up Adam to Moses? So that's point number one. Point number two is here's a specialized study on, basically it's a commentary on Genesis, but in hindsight of the ancient Near East. And here's a particular table, how the concept of numbers may have changed over time. So here you have prior to 2000 BC, base 60, what's known as sacred numbers, 60 and 7. Then you have in Egypt, you have the decimal numbers. Then you have in Palestine, decimal numbers. So preferred and figurative use of numbers at the time of Egypt, but then by the time you reach Palestine, you have real numbers but religious. And then it becomes more and more, more scientifically oriented the way you and I use it. And then over here, here's a whole list showing from Adam all the way down, each designated number in the list. So notice the text says 130, then 800, then 930. Seth is 105, 807, 912. What they'll point out is that there's a common value of 0, 5, 7, and 2 in all the ages. That is a bit too precise. Why does the ones place always have 0, 5, 0, 0, 5, 5, 7, 2? Because all those numbers correlate with a base 60 schema. And then again, this particular scholar will point out, look, over here, here we go. So then the total number of the years for those men, if you go from Adam to Moses, is 12,600, or 70 times 180, which total reflects both the sexagesimal, which is base 60, so 60 times 3, which is 180, system of the Mesopotamians, and the Mesopotamian Hebrew preferred number 7 or 70. So it is inconceivable that all of this should be accidental. This is a deliberate polemic. Sort of like, you guys have your... Because look, I can even show you here, in another Genesis commentary over here. Yeah, this is by John Goldengate at Fuller Seminary. He says, so it is the lifetimes and the families that are in focus, not their reigns, and the lifetimes associated with them are modest compared with those of the kings. So Genesis 5 might thus have an effect on its readers parallel to the effect of Genesis 1 in light of the comparison and contrast with, what he's saying is when on high is the phrase, El Elyon and the Bereshit in Genesis 1:1. So it might provoke the thought, those silly Sumerian statistics? Well, here are some less outlandish ones. You see, that's the polemic. How can you take this and then force a modern genetic statistical, decay curve on top of what was originally meant to be a polemic against the Sumerian king list. That's all this is meant to be. That's my question.
That premise could be totally wrong. That's why. And
But
Well,
how
they
is
can
this wrong?
both be
I
true.
mean, you have in the book of Numbers, we argued over the word Aleph, but it does say use the word hundreds in that same passage in Numbers, and then it uses that same MEOWT, however you pronounce that. It
Here
uses that
is
for the patriarchs.
Hoffmeyer.
I mean, why is there a problem with that? Why can't that be right?
Rob
Just
just
because some guy
interrupted.
found these numerical coincidence,
Yeah. No,
that
here-
takes precedence over just a plain reading, and then also
This is-
the genetic
this is
stuff.
Hoffmeyer.
I'm just
So-
pointing that out. You can't. There's no way that you could assume that this is absolutely right.
Yeah, but this is Hoffmeyer, the Egyptologist, who is also an evangelical Christian, and he says numbers in the Hebrew Bible do not utilize numerals. So one cannot dismiss this as a scribal error by someone adding too many zeros. Rather, the numbers written alphabetically, and the critical word is Aleph, which is commonly can translate 1,000, but can also mean clan. And then he goes through some examples, and then he's like, look, it should be read as 600 units of 3,450 warriors. How, it's linguistically
that's
impossible
fine, but
to
it also
force.
I said that's fine, but it also uses the word hundreds in that same passage. So I mean,
In which
I don't
passage?
know.
In Genesis 5?
I'll look it up.
I mean, he clearly says here that,
Okay,
therefore 600,000 able-bodied Hebrew men would have outnumbered the entire Egyptian army by a rate of between 15 and 24 to 1. The Israelites could have walked off the job and easily overwhelmed their masters.
No. So the passage in Exodus 18, I'll give you the verse, 18:21. 18:1 uses the word also rulers of 50, rulers of hundreds, MEOWT. Rulers of 10 and rulers of 50 and rulers of hundreds. Are you saying that the word hundreds is not really 100? It's something less than 50 or 10. So
That matches.
I'm just saying logically that would seem. Are you saying that word MEOWT? I can't
But
pronounce.
that matches. No,
Is
but
that
that
100?
matches. But that matches. So notice you're reading Exodus 18. Go back to Exodus 12. In Exodus 12, which is just before the Exodus, it clearly says 600,000 Israeli men traveled from Ramses to Succoth on foot, not counting children. So this figure, well before the Exodus 18 verse you're talking about, would then naturally mean that you're talking about, if you took it literally, 3 to 4 million people. Logistically, this is impossible.
Well, I have a different point. I can understand why you misunderstood the point I'm making now. Okay, so this is the Jethro passage when he's talking to Moses on how to manage, and he says, you pick these people, there'll be rulers of tens and rulers of 50, rulers of hundreds, and rulers of thousands. I'm focusing on the word hundreds.
Yes.
Because if you go to Genesis 5, it doesn't describe the ages of the patriarchs in terms of thousands. It describes it in terms of hundreds. Mut, or however you pronounce it. So you're saying in this case, you're going to interpret Mut as being literally 100 in Exodus 18, and then you're going to use your whatever hermeneutic to say, oh, it's not really hundreds for the ages of the patriarchs in Genesis 5. So
Yeah,
you're fine with that point. Is that
but
correct?
when do you think this would take place in Israel history? When did this happen?
No, I'm just look. I was just asking. You think the word is going to be hundreds in Exodus 18:21, and it's a different meaning in Genesis 5. Is that correct?
No, the age you can't transpose Exodus 18 and the text here about the population of Israel that's to come, and then equate that to be, since I'm going to take this literally, I'm going to then try and take the numbers in Genesis 5 to be literal, when Genesis 5 has nothing to do with the Exodus account. Genesis 5 is a literary product associated with the Sumerian king list. It has
How do
absolutely
you know
nothing to
that?
do with the Exodus story.
How do you know that? You're just making an assumption here.
No,
Is that correct?
I'm not making any assumption.
Did you say
This is a statement to
M-E-O-W
say.
in Hebrews hundreds. It's the same in Genesis 5. So you're saying that you're gonna say it means one thing in Genesis 5,
But then you have
and it means another thing in Exodus 18. Is that
you have to take into account. I'm not denying that there's the term for 100. What you have to take into account is that when you look at the numbers in Genesis 5, it has a numerical pattern that matches a base 60 schema. Naturally, you'd have to have the word 100 associated there to even make the translation like 800 or 930 or 105 or something like that. The point is, you have all these numbers fit a base 60 number schema. That has nothing to do with Exodus 18, speaking of the population of Israel post-Exodus.
Hey, Donnie.
Okay.
okay. I mean, I don't know how you can come up with that. That seems pretty fast and loose with just very simple reading of numbers. You're now saying that it doesn't really mean 100 when it says 100. It doesn't. You're saying in Genesis 5, it doesn't mean hundreds.
It has to read the word 100 has
Genesis
to be
5,
used in
and it
Genesis
doesn't
5 for it to
literally
even
mean
have
hundreds in
a value
Genesis.
of 100.
What? I'm sorry.
The Hebrew word for 100 has to be used in Genesis 5 for there to even be the word 100 in Genesis 5. That's not debatable. What's debatable is when you look at the numbers in Genesis 5, you can have 100, you can have the number 100, okay, or say 130 there. I can write 130 both in a base 10 form and in the base 60 form. That is a non sequitur to suggest that just because I'm seeing 130 here in a base 60 form means that I ignore the base 10 form later on in the Exodus account. But I already clearly showed you in this table, you have an evolution with respect to the use of numbers. By the time you reach Egypt, you have a more general form going down towards a base 10 sort of use. But before then, in the Mesopotamian context, which is before Egypt, it's sex adjustable. But you still have to use words like 100 to still be utilized within that same context.
Why was Smoky blocked then? Any idea?
The Smoke Man and the SFT are fighting right now. I hope to moderate a coming together amongst my sons one of these days, but they're pretty, mad at each other in public.
So if we could get back to the topic or whatever we're talking about here, Rob, I'd recommend you definitely check out this this technical article. You can find one on Answers in Genesis and one on creation.com. The answer
Translation, Donnie wants you to check out something, Rob, because Donnie's been checking you out all night, just saying.
Something called the Antediluvian Patriarchs.
I expect 2022 to be the year of unexpected romance once the international flights open up.
I have to say, guys, I really, really hate it when you guys don't get along. I don't mean this patronizingly or anything like that, but I really do see you guys as like sons, you know, those of you that I have their phone numbers and communicate with and stuff. It really does hurt me that you guys really are fighting and there's animosity. I have to tell you, it just, as Jordan Peterson says, I'm a very agreeable guy. You know, it's very hard for me to even disagree with people. And it's very hard for me to, like, you know, stand up against somebody I love and say, hey, you're wrong here or whatever. Very, very hard. I don't like it at all. Anyway, I'm rambling.
The original question is a fair question, and I hope, Standing sort of sees that, because my initial question to him was, I appreciate the all the time and energy spent in trying to give a mathematical statistic on, like, look at this, yeah, like that, right? And I appreciate that, but at the same time, when I venture out into other literature by people who may not be aware of, say, what Standing is sharing, and they're doing their own thing, right? And they come across and they conclude with reasonable certainty that, you know, this is the explanation for the data. Then because I'm like it's kind of like a tennis match to me, because I'm a bystander going, hang on a second, is people like Standing aware of this? And are people like Walton aware?
Hey,
of
somebody
that?
in the name of
Vice
chat
versa,
asked
or-
if I ever stopped talking about myself, and the answer is no.
And I still didn't get an actual age of these people before the flood, and or why God said He's going to reduce the age to 130 or whatever.
God doesn't say He's reducing the age.
Yes, it did.
No, He doesn't.
No, I think that
But
says they've got 120 years max until the flood comes to.
Yes, has
Um,
nothing to do with reducing the age.
No, there's a verse that says it's going to reduce the lifespan to 120.
No, that's
I
not.
was talking about 120 years until the flood comes, that they would have
And I agree with Standing on that. Yeah.
No, it's
Well,
120
no,
because
but you
120
never-
is the
you never
perfect dance
told
beat.
me-
120
You never
beats per
told me
minute.
What is the actual? What are their actual ages, though? What are the actual ages?
We don't know.
Oh, no.
Well, let me just conclude my thoughts on this, because and we'll get back. We can still continue to talk about these data points as long as it relates to the topic. But it's interesting what Rob's putting forth here. I don't think it's necessarily a problem to what we've been saying from the Young Earth Creationist perspective when we take the ages literally, and I'd recommend maybe Rob check out this article, and I'll check out the ones that he has for sure. But as a Young Earth Creationist, we find this fascinating that when you, as we pointed out earlier, that when we plot the ages before the flood and then after the flood, we see this exponential decay curve that has a less than 1 chance in a quadrillion of being true if this data was either just symbolic and it just happened to turn out this way, or is fabricated, or so on and so forth. So I guess, Rob, you'd have to also answer that question: is how did that line up so perfectly?
I'll need to look into, if you have like an official paper by I don't know, Danny Faulkner or something, or someone equivalent with this curve and all that. I want to see the mathematical argumentation of how they, you know, because I know you're just putting in the numbers as it is into the system, but I want to see the bivariance in which you're. I just hope there's no like ad hoc reasoning in this. So.
By the way, Danny Faulkner, Dr. Danny Faulkner, is a very, very good Christian brother.
Yeah, I like Dr. Faulkner for sure.
He's honest because he says that there is no evidence for young Earth whatsoever in science. He just has to believe it by faith. And I don't mean that as a dig. I'm just saying that is my observation as well. Anyway.
But did you notice that the lifespan was cut in half twice? Once by the global flood and once in the days of Peleg, and then it just goes down from there.
Has nothing to do with my old Earth model.
has to do with the breakup of the continents in the days of
I-
Peleg.
No, it doesn't. No, the Hebrew has to do with splitting the tongue, not splitting the continents.
No,
It's the days of Babel of Peleg.
It's the earth. God
No,
divided
no, it's
the
not.
earth.
No, it's not. Let's be honest about the biblical text. I'm not going to use it and say that it means old earth, and I'm not going to say that it means young earth. But let's be honest. The biblical text has to do with the splitting of the tongue,
No.
not the continents. That
No, it
that
says-
is foreign to the context.
But I
Yeah.
can prove it though with the evidence
Wait,
too. I got
wait,
evidence.
No,
to
you
back it
can't
up.
prove it. I just told you
Wait,
you can't.
I got
Can,
evidence
can
to
you
back it up.
can you repeat what you just said? What was that?
No, I can't because I have ADHD. What did I say? you repeat it.
The P-leg thing, splitting.
Yeah, it
The
means
earth
splitting of
was
the
divided.
tongue. That's what it has to
No.
do.
No, the earth was divided in the days of Peleg.
No. It has
And
nothing
the
to do with
word-
the actual earth. It has everything to do with the fact that God split up the tongue. He changed the languages at Babel. It's the only thing it means.
But hang on,
You see,
Tyler.
that's
Tyler, what
what-
about Emperor Ross saying that's to do with the land bridges?
But I got evidence though. I got evidence to back it
Well,
up.
I think that might be a secondary issue, but it's not a literal young earth. The continents are literally drifting now.
Oh, I agree with
At
you
an
on
exponential
that.
rate.
It's not the continents drifting, definitely not. But someone like
Yeah.
Ross will say there's the land bridges are sort of like
I got
disappearing, and so
evidence.
therefore.
Oh, sure, but the splitting, the dividing
Yeah,
primary
yeah,
is the
yeah,
languages,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
God providentially allowed for the
And
geographical diversity
that would make sense.
of those languages.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. That
Yeah.
would make sense. If there's a reduction of the land bridges, that would explain the differences in the languages that crop up. And that fits perfectly with what you're saying.
yeah.
Well,
Either
when
one
the
could be the
continents-
cause of the other. It
when
doesn't
the
necessarily
continents
have to
broke
come about by a
apart,
supernatural
they-
act of splitting the languages. It can definitely be a geographical thing that happens naturally.
They separated into family groups and began speaking their own languages. Makes sense. But the continents were broken apart because there's.
No,
Wow.
not the way the young
No,
earthers
that is
say
not
they were
what the
broken
text is
apart.
saying.
Yeah, with the
I'm
destroy the
saying
world.
there's
The
fossil
young earther says there was
evidence.
Pangea, and literally the continents
There's
broke apart.
sedimentary evidence.
Literally,
There's fossil evidence. There's glacial evidence. In
the
India.
fossil record has nothing to do with the Noahic flood. Nothing to do with
You're
it.
not even listening to what I'm saying.
No, I'm not, and I apologize for that because you're not listening to me. I'm trying to tell you.
You're just flat out.
I'm giving
saying
you.
no.
I'm giving
Okay,
you
guys,
some
this is
insight
getting
from my
pretty
informed position. You can reject it, and that's your prerogative. But I'm giving you an informed opinion, and I know I'm a younger man, and you're not obligated by any means to listen to me. But I'm telling you, as a student
But you're
and as a
not
proven
listening.
scholar, I'm telling you that that's not what the text means. Cannot be used as a proof text for young earth nor old earth.
Have you ever read it? It says the earth was divided in the days of Peleg.
Yes, I've read it a
never
few
read it.
times.
Okay, have you noticed that there's glacial markings in India going from south to north because it was connected to Antarctica?
Again, I believe in an ice age and 12,000 years ago.
On
The Younger
top of
Dryas,
the
there was a
sediments.
comet or asteroids
Are you
that
going to
plummet-
listen or are you
that
just
hit the
going to talk?
North American continent. We have the asteroid
Greenland.
impacts
Are you
now.
gonna listen
We
or
have
you
it down
gonna
to
talk over me?
12,000 years
Okay,
ago.
guys, stop talking over each other. Grow up. I want to ask Jackson a question. You know what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the topic of the debate. This after show is about Jackson's debate. Jackson, I wanted to ask you a question about the.
Fair enough, but watch the sassiness, please.
Well, here's the thing. For the last 5 minutes, Kenny and Jungle Jargon have been talking over each other. It's not
Yeah,
fun
it's-
for the audience.
It's
What's
the
going on?
cutting in half the lifespan
Oh my
twice.
gosh.
Okay,
That's what it's about. Cutting the lifespan in half twice.
I'll behave.
And I can prove it. I can prove
Okay,
it.
go
I
ahead,
got
Kenny.
evidence.
Tony, did you like
Go ahead.
the HIV calculation I did? What you
Well, let's
think of that?
give the bad Jedi himself. Okay, what are your thoughts to what Jungle said there, Kenny? Or do you want to move on?
Yeah, I'm gonna just take a break here. Technically,
I
I
don't know
didn't know
what
I
the
was talking over
hostility is
anybody
about.
because I
I
had
don't
to
know why
plug
the
my phone in. I
hostility.
don't have my hands free, so I can't hardly hear anybody. I'm
I
trying.
don't know why such hostility. I'm saying something and you're talking.
Oh, I'm
over
I'm
me.
very angry right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys are
Very
you guys are
hostile.
funny.
I'm just sharing evidence which is not completely out of the ordinary for your Earth creation teaching.
Yeah, but I'm
No
suggesting
global
just be
flood.
honest with the text. It affirms what it affirms, but you can't use it to affirm what it doesn't affirm. That's all I'm suggesting.
Well, you have to
Be-
look at the
be an
evidence,
honest
see what
scholar.
evidence-
This is just a random.
what the
I'm going to ask a
evidence
random
shows.
question to Jackson here.
What the
Jackson, are
evidence
you
shows.
a Christian or an atheist or what? Like, what's
You
your
already asked that. You already asked it. I'm
No, I
sorry.
didn't.
It's-
I asked. You're an atheist.
you know, it's, I mean, I'm open to God as a possibility, but I don't see any evidence for it.
Okay.
So Jackson, you brought up viruses in the debate.
Yeah.
As a refutation to genetic entropy. I was curious if you looked into the H1N1 research that Dr. Sanford and Dr. Carter published in the secular literature, showing that the H1N1 human version went from a red hot pandemic to a whimper to an extinction event in just 90 years based on a linear accumulation of mutations, demonstrating genetic entropy at work in real time.
I read that. I mean, I read part of it, but I read something else. It's kind of a refutation of it. I don't remember the details exactly.
Do you remember what any part of the refutation was?
Not really. I just
Because Sanford, see, here's the thing: the only so-called "quote-unquote" refutations that have been put forth against their work that was again published in a secular journal, okay, not in like the Young Earth Creationist Journal or anything like that, has come from either YouTube videos or blogs. There's never been anything published in terms of an actual response. And they demonstrated that the virus started off more human in its codon usage and ended up randomized. It became worse at interacting with human DNA over time. And if it is using the wrong codons, that means it will be less efficient at replicating in human hosts. So this decline in functionality, Jackson, matched up perfectly with genetic entropy related expectations. So I guess my whole point in bringing this up is that you brought up viruses as a refutation of genetic entropy, but Dr. Sanford and Dr. Carter have demonstrated the reality of genetic entropy through their viral work. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
viral.
Hey, Standing, who is this cat person in the chat? I really like them. They're trolling me really quite a bit, and they're very funny.
Are you getting trolled there, Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're getting my humor, and I love it.
I'll have to scroll up and see.
Well, viroids have the highest mutation rate of anything, I think, and they've existed since at least the 1920s, and they've been doing fine. So I don't.
Repeat that. I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat. Go ahead. Dad.
Viroids have the highest mutation rate of anything, I think, and they've been in existence since at least the 1920s when the symptoms were seen on plants, but obviously they've probably been around longer than that.
And this is an example seen in viroids that have a high mutation rate.
Yeah, very high mutation rate.
I guess the response I'd have to that is genetic entropy was originally derived or meant to be tested on higher mammals. They tested it with the H1N1 and published some pretty solid results that suggested it went extinct due to linear accumulation of mutations. But you're pointing to an example of viroids with high mutation rate that have not yet been extinct. I guess I'd have to just look at the details. So
Yeah. What did you think of the HIV calculation I did? That it's like 4.7 million years of. I'm just drawing a blank. I'm so tired.
That's
Yeah.
what.
I want
Yeah, go ahead, Sal.
I just say I think it's moot because we have more accurate measurements now. I mean, it's commendable you did that, but it's of interest to a lot of people what the actual numbers are for humans, and the best estimates are 100. So we don't actually need the viral one. It's available in numerous publications. So do you feel, Jackson, do you feel comfortable going with the numbers that are about 100 mutations per individual per generation?
Oh yeah, that's what I did in the calculation.
So I mean, I'm just saying it's commendable, but you don't need it at this point because we have what are considered better numbers.
Are those better numbers with humans? You're saying, Sal?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Right.
because I mean there's a lot of reasons it would be of interest uh, for uh, for human health. So if you want, I can dig up where the sources are. Um, I can do that right now, and I'll dump it in the side chat.
Okay. Why is C Science Film Labs always talking about Lucy Sacrum? It's very old.
Jackson, can you send me that paper on the viroids?
Let me see if I can find it.
You can even do it after over Facebook if you want.
Okay.
I was just looking for it here on Google and can't seem to find it.
About
Right now.
hammerhead viroids, things what they were called.
Yeah. So, I think when it comes, kind of bringing this back around to what we were talking about hours ago, is the fast mutation rate in humans. The fact that we now know the human genetic functionality is a lot higher than we ever predicted. And Sal always makes the point that even if, I believe Sal, and I don't want to misrepresent you, but even if the genome was only 10% functional, that's still too much for human evolution, because that's still 10 deleterious mutations getting through the next generation that selection can't do anything about. Now we know the genome is a lot more functional than 10%, but the point is calculations and numerical experiments have been done demonstrating that even if the genome was only 10% functional, it's still too much. Humans will still degenerate.
Guys, I'm too tired to argue. I'm gonna have to get off here.
No more.
Yeah.
You've been at it for literally 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's
I'm dated out.
more than a good excuse.
Yeah.
Make sure that you send me that paper on the viroids if you could through Facebook.
Yeah, you have to remind me because I'll probably forget.
I'll remind you tomorrow.
I'm phasing out. I'm gonna have to go to sleep. All right. I'll see you guys later.
All right, man. Good debate tonight. Fun
Yeah.
after show. Take it
Yeah,
easy.
fun.
Anybody want to hear the evidence for the breakup of the continents 100 years after the global flood?
I know
I
Kenny
wanted-
does.
Kylo Ken does.
There's,
I wanted to
mean,
add
there's
one data
evidence.
point.
Oh, yeah,
There's
go ahead,
evidence.
Sal.
Regarding the mutation rates, one of the first papers that commented on it when it was giving the figure between like 100 and 175, they said this is irreconcilable with the fact we're alive, which is the usual comment that it's irreconcilable. So that they have these measured numbers. So Nachman and Kroll is one of the papers. There's so many others, and every major geneticist has been troubled with that. So I did have a question for Rob. if he's still on.
I'm still here.
Oh, thank you. What were the references to the paper that you were showing in your slides? If you can put that in the chat, that'd be very helpful.
So I recommend you get, it's by Carol Hill, A Worldview Approach to Science and Scripture. That's by Kriegel Publications. It's a 2019 book where she synthesizes the biblical scholarship and the scientific details on how she reads Genesis. There are a few disagreements I have with her, but she more or less, like, I think her and I overlap like 90% in regards to like the Persian Gulf, for example, the Persian Gulf flooding and the Persian Gulf location for Eden and all that stuff. And so she points out the chronologies in Genesis. And this, she basically repeats what Walton says and all that. And the other one would be if you're looking for like a general, like, very good up to date Genesis commentary, I recommend John Goldengay's Genesis commentary by Baker Academic. It was published in 2020.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Golden.
Goldengay.
Yeah, I have
You
his
spell it?
systematic theology in PDF if anybody wants me to pass it along.
Yeah, and if you want, say, Hoffmeyer's thing on the Exodus, probably the best book and the most up-to-date book on it was published last year, actually, by Zondervan. It's a 5 views on the Exodus by Scott Stripling, Hoffmeyer, Peter Feynman, Gary Rensburg, and Ronald Pendle. It's the Counterpoint series, so it's 5 views on the Exodus for the...
Yeah, fantastic series.
Do you have access to the comment section or the private chat? Just to make sure that I'm spelling the names correctly.
So Carol Hill?
I got Carol Hill. I just saw it. I
James
just did a Google
Hoffmeyer.
search. Scott.
John Goldengay. Those are just some of the names for now. Another one I think you'll find very interesting is by it's a book called The Liturgy of the Calendrical Liturgy of Creation. Let's see, by a guy named Michael. I don't know how to pronounce this last word, but his name is. This is his name.
There is another book out there.
Lefebvre or something.
Yeah, there's another book out there called, I think, the One Who Is, The Doctrine and Existence of God, something like that. That's a good book. It has nothing to do with the Exodus, but good book nonetheless.
And he does a very interesting job. Let me show you.
Has Dr. Falk written anything?
Oh yeah, Falk. The Ark of the Covenant in its Egyptian context by David Falk. F-A-L-K.
Yeah, Dr. Falk's a bad butt. Yeah. He's almost as cool as I am. Not quite, but almost. He doesn't have any hair to blow in a fan, as one other very prominent personality out there has the ability to do as well.
Check this out. I'm going to quickly share my screen again. The dimensions of the ark, okay, also fit a basic state number. And quite curiously, it matches the dimensions of the tabernacle in the wilderness, like proportionally. So what this means then, and this is by this guy, Michael Lefebvre, the Liturgy of Creation, Understanding Calvin's Christian Context, IDP publication, see John Collins forward. So he goes, it is noteworthy that both stated stories, which is the flood narrative and the Exodus journey, are sanctuary stories. It has been often noted that the dimensions and features of Noah's Ark identified as a floating temple. If this is correct, both of these stories feature the construction of a mobile sanctuary that carried God's people through a barren wilderness to a new land of bounty. And so, in other words, how can we read the ark? How can Ken Ham construct an ark to the size that he's constructed it when it shouldn't be the case? When really it's at the literary level, you know, in the context of its own genre, this is the theology associated with the dimensions of the ark.
It's because we're all descended from the 16 grandsons of Noah.
You know what? I'm just not even going to answer that.
No, the 16 ancient civilizations are the 16 grandsons of Noah. You know, very, very important to know. And they have a Y chromosome associated with the ancient civilization.
You know, Standing, I have way more respect for you than the young Christians.
What's wrong with known human history, known ancient civilization? What's wrong with that?
How the heck do you get what I just said about the ark, this beautiful theological imagery of the ark being a mobile sanctuary?
Well, you didn't follow the reason.
And then you connect that to Noah's sons? Like, what the heck?
Because you're trying to spiritualize the ark as being passing through some kind of trouble or something. When it's
Is it time for a song yet? Maybe.
Then you start criticizing Ken Ham when it's a real family.
Oh, Ken Ham is definitely a curmudgeon of a person.
It's a real family genealogy, which is your family. It's your genealogy. It's your descendancy from an ancient civilization. And no, Ken Ham is a nice person, not somebody you want to defame.
Ken Ham lies in order to paint Hugh Ross as a villain. Ken Ham lied about Richard Howe, Dr. Richard Howe from Southern Evangelical Seminary, founded by Dr. Dorm Geisler, President Richard Land. He actually came out and called him a compromiser when Dr. Richard Howe is actually a young earthist, young earth creationist, happens to be a Thomist, and said nothing in principle that Dr. Ross is doing is contrary to solid scientific methodology and philosophy. But Ken Ham is such a retard, he doesn't even know how to differentiate a friend from foe. He's stupid. Sorry to rant.
Well, people make mistakes and they can change.
No. You don't vilify a fellow brother in Christ.
Can you change? Can you change?
What's that?
Can
Absolutely. By the power of the Holy Spirit. Yes, I can, dude.
Okay. Now I'd like to see a change.
Oh, well, I can show you many changes.
How about this?
No, I have a righteous indignation to lies, dude. I have a righteous indignation against lies, against twisting the truth. I am serious. Don't you hear my voice? I'm very serious about the nonsense. Well, now I'm serious, dude. Now I'm serious. Now you have serious Kenny. Don't mess with serious Kenny. I'm telling you right now, young earth creationists, brothers in Christ, have vilified old earth creations. And they're sinful for doing that. I have heard nothing but disdain for Rob here for the last couple hours, dude. I've heard nothing but disdain for Rob for the last couple hours, and I'm sick and tired of it.
As if we're not.
Listen, sir, how about you pump your brakes for a minute and let's consider Christian morality. Let's consider Christian morality for a moment. I've been a pastor for 30 years. I know what I'm talking about.
You're a pastor?
I have been a pastor for 30 years. Yes, I'm a pastor. Yes, I am. Insult me, please. Insult me. I'm a pastor. Insult me. Tell me, Jargon, how more superior you are in intellect and ethics. How about I don't take myself? How about I don't take myself so seriously? How about I don't take myself so seriously that I'm an asshole to people? How about that? I like to have fun. I like to be serious. How about you be an idiot? Hey, asshole.
Yeah. How about being
Yeah,
more
you're an
respectful?
asshole. You're an asshole. How about that? You're an asshole. Be honest, dude. Be honest.
So
Don't talk
you're
to Christian
vilifying-
brothers as if they are evil.
You're vilifying
Don't get-
us. We're getting
Dude,
we're getting the worst
Dude,
end of the
dude,
deal.
I have had
Young
nothing but
Earth creation.
slander, and I have had dear brothers treat me as if I am some sort of devil because I changed my view from young Earth to old Earth. Don't mess with me, man.
So-
Don't mess
so
with me. Don't mess with me.
treating
How about
you
shut your
bad?
mouth
Who's
for a
treating
minute?
you bad? Who's
How about
treating you
shut your
bad?
mouth? How about shut your mouth? How about that? And listen to somebody who's
How
been a
about-
pastor
how about
and has been
respect-
around the block.
Or
You're just some
listen to
doofus
us.
pontificating on your lack of knowledge
How
and your
about
lack of
listening to
comprehension.
why we believe in a young Earth? How about
I
listening
know
to the
why you
point?
believe in a young Earth, and I support you. Don't misrepresent us. Don't misrepresent us, old Earthers. That's what I'm saying. It pissed me off now, and I can't
You
even
think it's
freaking
a
talk.
one-way street? You think it's a
Oh
one-way
no,
street?
it is a one-way street. Trust me, I can bring up plenty of stuff with young Earthers misrepresenting, lying about their own evidence. Read some Kirk Wise if you want to about the absolute intellectual dishonesty of young Earthers. Listen, Jargon, you're a doofus, man, and I'm done.
Well, have you listened to what I was saying?
No, you're a doofus.
Okay, so then you can't tell me anything.
Oh,
If
no,
you
I
don't
can. I can
listen.
say you're an absolute doofus. And I'm done with you vilifying people that believe in old Earth like me.
Where did I vilify somebody?
I'm done.
Where did I vilify somebody? I didn't vilify. I had a discussion with Gavin.
You're asking Rob
Go watch
questions
the discussion
that are very
I had with
probing.
Gavin tonight. And
I
see
don't
if
care about
vilified
Gavin and your conversation. I'm talking about right now,
Okay,
Rob,
see
and the
if I
cross-examination that you've been doing to Rob, and the condescension to Rob, who is your brother of mine. I disagree with him, but he is a deal brother. You listen,
You think
man.
it's a
Why don't you
one-way
stop for a
street?
minute? Stop under talking me, dude. Because what I have to say is
it's a
far
one-way
more
street.
important than what you have to say right now. Okay? Not in all circumstances, but right now, what I have to say is
So I
far more
can't
important than
disagree.
the
I
nonsense
can't call
coming out of
them
your
out.
mouth. Stop
can't call them
treating
out.
fellow Christians as if they are villains because they believe that God used eons instead of 24-hour days. Period. Stop, you idiot.
Well, what if we have reason?
Kenny, can I interrupt and ask what these lies you earthers have been telling? I'd really like to know more about that, please.
Oh, well, let's see. Hugh Ross has been called an evolutionist, which he's not. Actually, young Earth creationists are Darwinian radical evolutionists. But no, nobody wants to say that. They call them
No,
evolutionists.
but you're making a
Shut up, dude. I'm
mountain
done.
out of a molehill.
No, I'm not.
If it's
No,
a lie,
I'm
it's not a molehill.
Somebody else back me off right now because I'm done talking to this idiot.
Well, Kyla Ken, let's go and have a beer. You need to cool off.
Yes, I do. Would love to. Matter of fact, I think I need 2 beers. What a sinner I am.
I'll shot you 2 beers and a scotch.
What other lies, Ken? I
Rob,
want to
thank
know.
you for the references.
By the way, Sal, just so you know, in light of what Kenny just saying, I hope I didn't come across as rude to you personally. I do
You
appreciate
did.
the questions.
Not in this discussion, but when we met on S.J. Thomason's channel, you called me
Oh,
dishonest to
definitely.
my face. I've never forgotten it. I didn't call you out on it because
Yeah, well,
SJ,
then
she's your friend.
All right, brothers,
I-
let's reconcile. Let's get this
Yeah,
out and let's be
I was
brothers.
about,
Yeah.
I was about to say I repent and I apologize right now over that, and I should have like I should have told this to you, some time back ago. Like, I'm sorry it's taken this long. I didn't hold any I haven't held any.
You called me
animosity towards you.
dishonest to my face. I didn't argue with you. I was just giving my testimony to S.J. Thomason. You started interrupting me when I was talking. You're trying to ask me to
Yeah, it
explain
was-
things. And you
I'm
accused
at
me of
fault
being
for that.
dishonest. I didn't have any hostility toward you. did nothing to provoke you calling me dishonest.
Well,
And you
go
did,
ahead and go
in front of
talk to
everyone. That's not cool, dude.
Australians don't interrupt.
Shut up,
Australians don't do
jargon. Shut up, jargon. Let them talk.
Okay, and I
No need to
apologize.
shut
That
up.
is not cool, dude.
All right,
I
Rob.
don't do
There's
that
there's
to
a real
people.
offense here.
I don't go
Rob.
up to people and call them dishonest to their face the first time I meet them. You have no
Yeah, there's-
manners, bud.
There's a real offense here, Rob. Address this for the sake of the body, if you would. And
Oh, definitely. I'm apologizing right now, and please, please believe that I'm taking it quite seriously in my apology to you.
I appreciate that. I just got to tell you, I don't think I've ever gone up to anyone the first time that I meet them, and there's no hostility exchange. Just call them dishonest to their face. I did nothing that deserved you calling me that. So I had a very low impression of you from that point.
Okay, I understand. It was in the context of that discussion, but I shouldn't have gone out of my way to, to say that you're dishonest or anything like that. And since then, let's not forget that I'm not making an excuse here, but there's been a little bit of a growth on my end because since those initial discussions with not just you but with many younger creationists, I think standing allowed a platform of discourse, especially on his channel. In other words, building our bridges. And I think all this animosity that Kyler Ken is talking about, all of that has been ironed out. And in other words, you may notice that I'm actually conversing more freely with Standing himself on these issues because it's a give and take situation. And if there's a way to build a bridge with you, I'm all for doing that. And I apologize for, hurting you that way.
If I'll tell the audience something, I've researched. I was an old Earth evolutionist. I became an old Earth creationist, and then a young Earth creationist. Much of this was driven by my research, and I stated this research on S.J. Thomason's channel. I had also praised Hugh Ross, and in that same show, I'd said I personally thanked Hugh Ross for helping me in a difficult time in my life. He and I don't have the same views about cosmology today. So there was nothing about me attacking old Earth creationists personally. And then I was just stating my reasons for accepting young Earth. As I stated it, in terms of what I believe was scientific evidence, I didn't even appeal to scriptures. I said, this is what the data shows me. He starts accusing me of being dishonest. Right there. Not even giving me the benefit of the doubt that I might be just mistaken. Uses the word dishonest, interrupts me when I'm trying to answer his questions. And that is just not cool. I've had a very negative view of you ever since, because no one has shown so much hostility toward me. It was a very nice conversation. There's no reason for you to just, to my face, while we're there, my face on the camera, you said I was dishonest. That's just not cool. You could have tried to refute the facts that I put on the table. You just said I was dishonest. So
I still.
I'm sorry, Rob. You have a very negative impression on me, and it's not going to erase because that's my first impression of you. So
that's fine.
Whether I forgive you or not,
I don't require
just,
forgiveness
you
from
can't
people.
take back what you did.
All I'm doing is I'm doing my duty in light of
thank you.
Building bridges to suggest that I went a bit too far in my assertion.
So, now we can't actually start to discuss the science without you calling me dishonest.
Well, I think he
We can talk
apologized for
about
that there,
archaeology
Sal.
without
I
calling
think
me
he's
dishonest.
apologized for that. I don't think you can make that kind of a statement after the fact, because that's not really being honest about accepting
Oh, so
an
now
apology.
you're questioning me.
No.
Okay.
I'm saying what you said suggests he said he apologized for that. He's no longer going to accuse you of dishonesty.
Not just that, I take it back as well.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. So you're mistaken and you're in the wrong. Is that right?
I'm not mistaken for my disagreement about you and the discussion that we had, but for me to
So you're saying I was dishonest? Now let's just settle this. Are you saying I was dishonest, but you shouldn't have said it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I think
So
you're being
saying I was dishonest.
like, for
and-
example, in this discussion when I tried to
Okay,
share with
So
you
you were
the
saying I was
scholarship.
dishonest. Okay. You're saying I would. Is that correct? You were saying I was dishonest, but you shouldn't have said it, but you still think I'm dishonest. Is that correct?
Well, how else am I to judge your engagement with the data that I'm sharing with you, even in this discussion?
I could be mistaken. I mean, this is
And if you're mistaken, then I take it back with the word
Okay.
dishonest.
all right. No. Okay. So you think I'm dishonest, but you're apologizing the fact you called me that to my face. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you think I'm dishonest, and given you think I'm dishonest, it's like, well, you're just going to be try to polite, and I can't really expect to deal with you because you view me that way. I mean, it's just given that you've just confessed that you view me as dishonest, it's going to be hard to have a dialogue. So,
How
I will
to
view
view
you
any
as
other
someone
way
who-
if you don't respect the fact that just as you lay out your arguments, I also lay out my arguments, and that's that. At least I'm not being dishonest as far as the youngest arguments go. I check out the arguments. You obviously haven't evidently checked out Hofmeier's arguments, Golden Gate's arguments, and so on. And it's a very good question I raised to Standing. It's not to put Standing or the young creationist model down. It's just a legitimate argument that here you are forcing something on the text, and I suggest that that's being dishonest with the text. You're not actually consulting the scholars. And here's the thing: when I do raise the scholars, right, immediately, and this is Kyler Kent's point, those scholars that I quote are evangelical Christians. They're thoroughly evangelical. And then people like yourself, especially Jungle Jargon, will throw them under the bus
Especially me.
and suggest that they are the ones being liberal and
Oh,
they're not really
especially me.
Christian. And
Jargon, you're on
I
my
didn't
poop
even
list. You need to
answer.
shut up,
I
dude.
didn't even respond. I didn't even respond to your argument, Rob.
so Sal, what I'm saying here is, I, being a sinner, would have probably lost my patience very quickly and presumed unfairly that you're just like some of the younger people that I come across. And so that's why I'm apologizing, and in fact I repent and take it completely back, because it hurts me to know that you were hurting. And I
So
don't
who did
mean
I
that.
throw under the bus?
And I think Sal is an honest guy.
Yeah, who did
From
I throw
my
under the
observation.
bus?
Shut up, Jargon.
So-
Shut up.
Who
So-
did I throw under the bus?
Shut up.
Who did I throw under the bus?
So Sal, when you asked
Nobody.
me
Okay.
when you asked me for the names of these individuals, that really spoke volumes to me. So I'm just like, wow, okay. And this is why I'm apologizing.
No, but you just said earlier you still think I'm dishonest, and that's fine. Thank you for being honest. Okay. And I do appreciate the fact. You still think I'm dishonest. I respect you for being transparent about your feelings. I'm just pointing out, given that's the way
you
you
as a
feel about
person,
me.
Sal. And I'm not even counting your salvific process in the whole thing. All I'm suggesting is your methodology is selective, and that's being dishonest. Like, for example, the other day
You know,
when you were
all
asked
right.
a very
I
simple question
understand.
about the identity matrix in mathematics, you didn't know what that was, but yet you claim to have proficiency in mathematics.
I have degrees in it. Are you saying I'm lying about it? I wanted to make sure I don't use the identity matrix very much. It's
But
just like
anyone who
you
does
multiply by
linear
one.
algebra and matrices will know what an identity matrix is. I'm not.
Are you saying I don't have a degree
I'm
in
not even
math?
suggesting that.
No, he's just saying
Okay.
you weren't informed in it. I don't think that the two are
No,
related.
I studied matrix algebra, linear algebra, but I know enough not to say it's that when I had the book right in front of me and I could check.
Yeah, but a
Is this
determinant of an identity matrix should be. It's like saying 2 + 2 is 4. That's the
look?
first thing you should
I
know
knew
if you learn
off the
matrices.
top of my head you have the ones across the diagonal at zeros, but I did want to double check. That's just in my nature. You interpreted that I didn't know just because I didn't answer it. I knew, but I wasn't 100% sure that I
Sal,
knew it correctly. I mean, it's
you
been
should be
years. It's
taking
been
this.
20 years since I took it. And
Sal,
then I
you
was
shouldn't be
asked also
taking
what
this
a vector
personally.
space was.
You should
So
not be
you're
taking
saying
this
that
personally.
I'm dishonest with the facts. I represented myself as having degrees in math. I didn't say I was necessarily that competent in it. And I don't,
Sal,
I've
you
used my
shouldn't be taking
specialty.
this.
Two of my co-authors in my paper, my recent chapter in Springer Nature, were mathematicians. If they thought I was an idiot, I wouldn't have been with them. So what's me being dishonest about saying I knew something about math? I'm competent enough to do the stuff that I was doing. We didn't use identity matrices. We didn't use vector spaces in that.
In multivariable calculus, obviously you use matrix math and identity matrices and so on. That is part of the Lagrange points and, you know,
I mean, it's been like 12 years since I've done classical mechanics, okay? But you're accusing me of not knowing it? I just wanted to make sure I had it right because I'm sometimes confused. I had the book right there. What do you think I'm doing with the book on linear algebra and matrix algebra? See, and a big deal is made about this that Sal's misrepresenting his credentials.
you don't have to
Specifically,
take this
one
personally.
person on S.J. Thomason's channel said, no, I don't believe you had a degree in these disciplines.
If you feel threatened by
take
the
it.
statements, then if I was to reverse psychologize that, then maybe there is some form of legitimate reason of why people question your ability in the maths.
Maybe it's an
But I'm not going that far.
Oh,
Well, I think
no, because
People should
there's a lot that
understand.
I don't remember. Okay?
there's reasons why people believe what they believe, and you should at least listen to what they're saying and see if it makes any sense.
First coherent thing you've said all night there, Jargon. That's hyperbolic. Just joking
Well,
with you.
that's-
I have nothing
now
against
you're
you,
slamming
playing with
me.
you.
Now
I'm
you're
playing with you,
slamming me.
dude. Dude, I just
Now
told
you're
you it was a
slamming
joke.
me. Yeah,
Hold
you're
on.
slamming me.
Just told you it was a joke, man. Relax.
All right,
Don't take
before-
yourself
before-
don't take
before
yourself
the
so
ball-
seriously.
before
Don't take
the
yourself so
ball
seriously.
rolls,
Relax. It's
before
a
the ball-
joke, man. It's a
Remember
joke.
the one-way street? Remember
Okay,
the
slam.
one-way
No,
street?
no.
and
Go ahead and slam me.
We're the bad guys. Remember that?
Slam. No, slam me. Go ahead. No, let me tell you. The widow of Dr. Malkouch, once she found out that I was working with Hugh Ross, disassociated with me. I was the leader on the project to write articles in honor of Dr. Malkouch called Evangelical Doctrine. Just because I was associated with Malkouch, I lost a very, very dear person to me because the young earth was so ingrained in her that she could not conceive of the fact that anybody could be of a different opinion. Dude, I'm telling you, the young earthers are far more culpable in this accusation. Yes, old earthers are guilty too. Rob is clearly guilty here. I have been guilty, maybe taking jokes too far. But I can tell you, there is nothing like the vile venom that comes out of Ken Ham, Kent Hovind, and some of the other one-off young earth creationists. It happens. Trust me. Dr. Ross has been slandered. Shut up, Jargon. Dr. Ross has been slandered. Dr. Ross, who is somebody who is autistic and on the spectrum, was bullied on the John Ankerberg show by Kent Hovind, the degenerate forward wife now, because he's got a deranged interpretation of scripture. He single-handedly was responsible for the growth of RTB because he is such a curmudgeon idiot.
Is it okay if people have convictions about what?
Yes, have
truth
convictions,
is?
but don't slander. Don't pick on a dude that has autism. What is your problem, Jargon?
And
You
they
don't
have
get
to
that you
keep-
don't pick on those that have disabilities?
they have to keep
Don't you
their-
get that,
their
you idiot?
convictions.
Don't you get
Okay.
that, you idiot? It's not about convictions. It's about what is right and what is wrong.
That's a conviction.
Okay, Rob. So we can talk a little bit now. So, given your view of me, you know, you're gonna have a little bit hard time talking to each other. But the important thing is some of the arguments you put forward today. If I have time, I'll look into them. I have not spent time because I have an extremely low opinion of Walton or people that believe in evolutionary theory. Because I used to believe in it too, and it doesn't hold water scientifically. So, the way it appears to me is they're trying to reconcile viewpoints that are now obsolete with the reconciling obsolete viewpoints with trying to find an interpretation of the scriptures with it. And I mean, how, you know, even back as far as I could tell, there had been some debate that Augustine mentioned about the ages of the patriarchs. So some of this is floated around, but in light of what we know now, it seems to me that literal interpretations are quite reasonable now at this stage. They're on the table. And Walton and company, who believe in evolutionary theory, I don't hold in high regard. They're not worth my time except to study now to understand what their arguments are.
Is that called numerology? Is that a study of
I don't,
numerology?
yeah. I don't know what it's,
That's what it sounds like.
I was trying to understand why we have the word 100 in Exodus 18, and then it doesn't mean 100 in Genesis 5. And I saw this table, and before I could read it, and the font's not really clear on my StreamYard connection, I was trying to process it. So, I don't know how that. I mean, if everything in the scripture is can be so redone based on the opinion of a linguist, it's like, okay, you know, what will ultimately decide what is accurate? If we have access to new data points that might enlighten us that the literal reading is accurate, why not use those? What would take precedence at that point? And I gave some data points today. The collagens in the dinosaur bones indicate they're not millions of years old. that would destroy a lot of Walton's viewpoint right there. If he is, to the extent he and the other evolutionary interpreters are arguing the fossil record and evolutionary theory correct and reconciling it with Genesis based on their linguistic approach, because it fails from the empirical. It may strongly fail from the empirical facts.
Is something I didn't realize is that they don't really believe in a global flood.
Yeah, see, that's another thing is,
And that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
understand. But
yeah, exactly. So, you know, that one with the ark and the proportions of this is the tabernacle. I'm like, okay, how does that preclude the ark from being large? I don't get it.
Right.
if you deny the global flood, which there's evidence for all around the world, then you're denying reality. That's the problem.
See, the thing is how does a dinosaur that big get fossilized? It can't take millions of years for it to be buried in sediment. It's going to be scavenged. It's going to be decayed. It was buried very quickly.
I mean, there's so much evidence. They were all drowned. The ones that are intact, they're all drowned.
So I don't see there's a lot of point for these other hermeneutics or linguistic approaches. There's evidence of a cataclysm. I mean, the mainstream will deny it, and that's the way it'll be.
But why get so worked up about it? We're just looking at the facts and talking about the facts.
So,
The evidence.
yes. So the word for hundreds is in Exodus 18, the passage when Moses was being advised by Jethro to set rulers of tens, of 50s, hundreds, and thousands. And then it uses the same word for hundreds in Genesis 5. What I didn't get is how come it means something other than 100 in Exodus 18. I saw a table that said, oh, there was a change in the base system. So there's something interesting there because, and I remember this, that even before Dan had its lands, it would identify parts of Mesopotamia as Dan in the modern word, Dan. So 100 in Exodus 18, it's reasonable then that it means 100 in Genesis 5. I mean, if there were a change in the basis of the number systems, and the word is 100 in the text, throughout the Hebrew text, why can't it be accepted as 100? So let's say that there was a change in the base system, then you just convert it to the you convert it to the new language if you're recording it in the new language. Why is that outrageous?
Yeah, but the problem is why did Noah live to 800 years, and why did all of his descendants live 500 years or less, and then in the days of Peleg, it was cut in half again, less than 250, and then it just kept on going down. I mean, why?
Come to think of it, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
This guy is being a jerk to you.
As you said, the ages were cut,
and it is
by a factor of
one of the main
It's
threats.
cut in half.
I mean, there have been
But yeah,
before the
Yeah.
explosion in Houston.
good point.
And that's what I was trying to bring out. And this guy's yelling at me and not letting me even talk. I mean, all I'm doing is talking what the evidence is. Anyway,
That's a really good point. Let me look at that passage.
I believe the days of Peleg was another.
I chat again tonight. You didn't.
No,
smoke,
that's
you
what.
didn't scare.
Yeah, that's
There's
what's
no
made me
ethics.
very mad. That's what's made me very mad. These guys.
I called
And-
them out on their doctrinal crap. I called them out on their lies. I called them out on their cowardice, their inability to contend, to back up any of the crap they say. What do? Oh, they just call me Josh. That's what they do.
Yeah, that is so demonic.
They
I
slander
can't
me.
even.
They slander me, they attack me, they revile me, they engage in assumptions, unrighteous judgment, lack of ethics. But they're the big righteous ones.
Yeah, I love to use the word asshole these days, just to pick out those people that say, "Wow, he's a pastor, use a profanity." When has asshole ever been profanity?
And why is it profanity? I don't even. They can't even back up the justification.
It's in the
of
Bible.
what these words are.
Should I say piss me off?
Dung,
that's King James.
Piss, yeah, all sorts of stuff. Sure, piss on you.
I mean, I
Absolutely.
don't like to cuss, but sometimes when you're dealing with idiots, that harsh language is the only way. And I'm sorry, I'm tired. People can say what they want, but I'm done with this lunacy that I'm seeing. I've gone through a lot of stuff. I've had a lot of changes in the last few months. Yes.
You know what, dude? You can click on the link. You want an update on the? Oh, God, look at this profile picture.
Which idiot is this?
Dumblet. You want to be caught up? You can either watch the show or you can click on the link. I'm so sick of retards anymore. You know what? You know the biggest curse of having any reasonable level of intelligence
Yes.
is you're surrounded and saturated
idiots and
by
fools.
morons all the time.
Utter and complete morons that, luckily for them,
And they were given all participation trophies when they were growing up. They weren't told, hey, guess what? You're not actually as smart as you think you are. So you should really think before you open your stupid, spurgy, retard mouth. They were never told that. They were told you can be whatever you want to be. You're smart enough to be absolutely anything. And that was a lie.
oh, it's much like I call them, American Idol parents, where their children clearly don't have any musical ability, but they think they're brilliant. That's kind of what happened with these guys. Their parents told them that they were great and gave them trophies.
Yeah. Whoever told CJ that they were a great person is a liar through and through. Absolute. In fact, CJ's parents should be ashamed of themselves that they produced such a disgusting, immoral, slandering piece of trash. And all this talk about I'm ethical, I'm the real Christian, I'm so righteous, I do righteous things. Smokey's a garbage clown. He does all the things I do, if not worse. See, I don't lie. I don't need to lie and fabricate crap about these clowns. I just work with what they give me. And these people have to lie and gossip and slander and engage in a bunch of back talk and back channel talk to try and make their points. None of them will address the issues. SFT, standing for truth, you're an idiot. And you want to keep pretending that I didn't wreck you on your stupid argument of genetic entropy? I use the components in your own model to show that your own model holds components that destroy your justification for a 6,000-year-old man. And what did you do? You just ignored it, pretend it didn't happen. Said that you ruled in that debate with me, sold the narrative like the scummy used car salesman you are, and have inability to be honest with your own failures, which are prolific.
morning. Thank you for calling Hoist Finance. All calls are recorded for training and monitoring purposes. Please choose from one of the following options. To make a payment using our automated payment service, press 1. Please enter your Hoist Finance reference number followed by the hash key. If you have an account, please enter the amount you wish to pay in pounds and pence, followed by the Please press 1 to confirm your payment of £5.10. Otherwise, please enter the 16-digit number on the front of your card, followed by the hash key. Sorry, I couldn't recognize what you entered. Please enter the 4-digit expiry date as printed on the card, followed by the hash key. Please enter the last 3 digits of the security code on the back of the card, followed by... Thank you. Please wait while I process your payment. Thank you. Your payment has been authorized. The authorization code for this transaction is 19608. To hear this authorization code again, press 1. To make a payment, the authorization code for this transaction is 19608. To hear this authorization code,
Only honest young earther I've ever come across.
Oh yeah, I brought that out in the very last there when I was trying
Sal
to do that
deserved
reconciliation thing.
absolutely- Yeah, Sal deserved none of the claims of dishonesty that was given to him by Rob. I'll call out Rob on
Right.
I'll debate
Yeah.
Rob on that. I'll debate Rob
for sure.
on whether or not Sal was literally the only honest young earther, and I have evidence for that I can.
Well, Danny Faulkner's very honest too.
David,
as I said, yeah, or Danny Faulkner.
Danny
I should say,
Faulkner.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Danny Faulkner. Danny Faulkner is one of those that many of the old earthers will even think is an honest young earth. Do you know why? Because he'll honestly say, we have this problem in our model and we don't have a good explanation for it yet. I mean,
Actually, it's
granted,
more drastic than that. It's like there is zero evidence, but we believe by faith. That's
Right.
Faulkner's conclusion.
well, at least Faulkner
It's a
is willing
fideism.
to be honest with it.
Right, fideism.
He's a
Fideism
right.
has
Thank
to
you.
be it, or you're an old earther.
That's fine. I know
Evidence
it
doesn't
because I
follow.
have faith in it. That's fideism. That's it's same with presuppositionalism is
Right.
fideism.
My interpretation is, God can, what do they say? He can reveal to me, this infallible certainty. It's kind of like that. Like somehow
Lena,
you
you
can-
think Sal is dishonest? Lena, you really think Sal is dishonest? I don't think Sal's dishonest. Lena, I'm not. I don't like your hot take on that one. Anyway, let's watch this. Let's watch this because this was a golden moment. Kenny, you didn't even realize it, but you were laying it down.
No, I was on a rant and I was.
I have been wanting someone to tell Jungle to shut the hell up for about the last 30, 45 minutes. So I'm glad someone finally did. And it was you. So this is a bit here. Let me speed up just a little bit. There we go.
As one other very prominent personality.
By
out
the
there
way, good
has the
evening,
ability to do
Andrew.
as well.
Good to see you.
Yeah, Andrew.
Check this out. I'm going to quickly share my screen again.
I still got a
But
wrench
this
on
is the
LVP's channel.
Okay.
That'll probably
Focus
change
on
after
16
tonight.
number.
Well, LPP's asleep. That was standing.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. No, I know, and that also shows you what a coward standing is. He actually times me out on the channel that he's running as the after show for LPP. Doesn't want me to speak. Do you know why? Because SFT is a coward and he can't contend with me, and he knows it. So all he does is sits there and calls me low-hanging fruit, irrelevant, not worth time, blah, blah, blah. Because you know why? Because actually having to answer to the things I say wouldn't work. Never has. Proved himself to be a complete and utter idiot clown. And we sat here and made fun of him for 7 very long streams of the dumb crap he said, and none of which he actually answered in any of those streams. He would bring it up in passing. He would straw man and misrepresent on occasion, but he would never actually contend, and he ran full sprint from debating me, and still is. So SFT is a coward. He's a rodent. He's a fraud. He's a cultist. And there's nothing at this point, short from actual repentance of his pure, unbridled degeneracy, that would allow me to actually call him a fellow believer. Same with CJ. CJ still doesn't even understand what the modal scope fallacy is. Still can't get it. CJ still doesn't understand the moral offense of saying that God authored all evil and directly predetermined it all. Still can't catch it. And these disgusting scum are attempting to attack me and even attack my family with absolutely no good justification. And they're going to sit there and continue to posture over their higher ethics and morals. And these people are foul. These people are foul of the highest order. And they're going to talk about, oh, I'm an embarrassment to Christianity, or I shouldn't call myself a Christian. These people are the most vile, horrible, lying, slandering, conniving, manipulative, passive-aggressive, theologically incompetent, spiritually sick frauds I've ever come across in my entire life. And trust me, I've been in churches of Satan. At least those people had the ability to be consistent and honest with the positions they hold. It's more than I can say about these young earthers. Satanists have better applicable ethics than most of these young earthers that I've interacted with. And this is how I know they're fraud. When they take on the work and action of actual demons to try and slander and malign with rumor and gossip, I know I'm not dealing with a Christian anymore. That person is a slave to their flesh. If you walk in the Spirit, you will not fulfill the lusts of the flesh. And these are flesh lust beasts every day. Every day they live. They are ongoing, living, and practicing sin. But that's okay. That's okay because they're free grace. You don't need sanctification to have justification. CJ and SFT have no fear of God or his morality. They think that God has basically just given them a free ticket to do anything they want, including being a slave to the flesh. So they do. There's no sense of fear. There's no sense of trepidation like me to make sure that I'm being accurate and honest and my observations are well-founded. There's none of that on them. They don't even have the mental faculties, even if they wanted to demonstrate that type of ethic. They can't. All they can do is engage in their little bull crap, their little abuse of ethics, ignoring the instructions of Christ. Can you imagine me bringing up the words of Christ, presenting it to a fundamentalist? This is what CJ did to me. Imagine me taking the words of Christ to a fundamentalist who says we interpret everything via plain reading. And I bring them the words of Christ that says, if you do not forgive your brother, God will not forgive you. Let's say I just take that to them and they talk about plain reading and reading as it is. And then I read the words of Christ to that person who claims that you just take it on surface value like CJ, that it says what it says, it means what it means, that a 6th century dirt farmer should be able to pick it up and immediately get everything that's inside the book. Let's say I took that position. And then I brought to CJ by his, this is why he can't debate. He would be spanked and ruined at this point. This is why he runs from me, and he should, CJ, you coward. Imagine taking the words of Christ by your own fundamental hermeneutics, and then when someone reads it to you, you call them a heretic. Imagine. Imagine how disassociative. Imagine how completely out of your brain you would have to be to take that position. Imagine how emotional and fleshly and detached from any logic you would have to be for someone to bring you a passage, expect you to hold your fundy hermeneutics to it, and then have them end up calling you a heretic in return. Imagine that for a moment. That's CJ Cox.
You know, the interesting thing is that in all real
When CJ called
definitions,
me a
I'm a
heretic,
fundamentalist.
when CJ called me a heretic, he went into my debate with Powell. CJ didn't pay attention to the fact that I was using a polemic against their fundamentalist interpretations of hermeneutics by pulling the words of Christ and forcing to see either they will abide by consistently their fundamentalist hermeneutics that it says what it says, or they will throw out their entire theological framework to try and defend what they want to hold on to. And CJ proved it. And so did Matt Powell. The very thing that proves CJ Cox as the theological failure that he is, he highlighted as if it was a point of pride. That's how stupid CJ Cox is. Unparalleled incompetence, unparalleled stupidity. My mind is blown. I was going to go get a burger because I'm hungry and it's late and I'm pissed off.
Pick me one up too, because I'm pretty hungry.
I wish I could. But it's just would probably be nasty by the time we got it. Lena, I need you to give me something to go off of that would lead me to give any reasonable conclusion that Sal is dishonest. Sal is one of the only ones in the entire community that actually stood up and was willing to give Kent Hovind the business. No one else has. CJ has defended him infinitely. SFT has defended him infinitely. I mean, the man is a cold-hearted deviant. Kent Hovind is an incompassionate, cold-hearted, deviant, immoral scum of a human being. Yet he will get infinite defense from CJ Cox and SFT. It is disgusting. You are not going to convince me this is Christianity, nor someone actively practicing this level of moral deviancy and abandonment of ethics and lack of care for the instructions of God. You're not going to convince me this person is actually being led by the Holy Spirit. You're not going to convince me that this is a true believer. I need evidence. Christ told me I'm going to know them by their fruits. They're garbage fruit inspectors. They don't even know what to look at. But for me, to them, it's transparent. It's blatant. They practice evil, ongoing.
You want to hear something funny?
With no fear of God.
You want to hear something funny? Dr. John Whitcomb, Dr. John C. Whitcomb Jr., everybody can look him up, wrote, co-authored the Genesis Flood. He told me personally, face to face, or I have met him face to face, maybe this one was on the phone, that he thinks Kent Hovind is a lunatic, crazy, nuts. Something's wrong with that guy.
He is. He's a sovereign citizen.
Yeah.
He rebels
Dr.
against
John
the
Whitcomb
government.
Jr. said that Kent Hovind is nuts. I'm sorry to divulge that, but
You know what?
Dr. Whitcomb is with the Lord now, and maybe I can divulge a private conversation.
I'm sure he'll forgive you. I'm sure no hard feelings about that. So. You know, I will continue and I will persist with this. And they can whine and complain and say I'm irrelevant all they want. But you know what? Young Earth has earned what it has invoked from me. And I'm gonna go as far and wide as I can to hope that everyone else will develop the same incredible, unparalleled disgust with it that I have. I will build this channel on the annihilated ashes of young Earth mainstream fundamentalist interpretation of Scripture, because I think it's cancer. I think it's a lie. I think it's something people use to make themselves feel special and unique and anointed. I think it develops cultist mindsets and behaviors. I recognize it has nothing to do with Christianity. And every single time I've come across one of these people with wholesale abandonment of ethics, morality, and a fear of the holy God, what do you know? They're either a young earther or a free gracer. And I am disgusted by it and sick of it. I'm sick of it.
And if you're going to label cell dishonest,
And if I'm wrong, you know what? If I'm wrong, let me go to hell. Because I'd rather be in hell than spend an eternity with scum like this, who are allowed to live anomia, lawless, and still be embraced by our holy God. No, to heck with it. Go ahead and send me to hell. Because that would be hell. Having to spend eternity with SFT, who thinks he can do literally anything and never have any compromise to his relationship with God, that's a monster. That's a demon. That's what a demon would operate with complete abandonment of the instruction and command and status of our holy God. That's a demon. That's not a man. That's a demon. And on the other side of reality, that's as best as he could hope to be classified as. I'm sorry, Kenny. I know you want to keep even arms with these people, and I know you believe you can reach them because you're just a pastoral man and you got a good heart. But I don't have that same heart. And when it is blatant to me and so transparent what disgusting, unethical, fake frauds these people are, I can't help it. I gotta put it out there, and I gotta hope as many other people out there will notice it as possible, because it is disgusting.
Yeah, well, that's my job, is to hope for hopeless cases, you know.
Well, that's fine. I would hope too.
That
Because
and
on
sounding good when I get behind the drums. That's also my calling.
You know, and all these people ultimately have to do is to try and find a way to discredit me personally or attack me personally, and then they go on about ad hocs. Okay, let me remind you guys what an ad
That
hoc
pisses me off
is.
the most.
Yeah.
The fact that these guys are there to try to slander you, following gossip and following trails of a, Korean. Really, I don't think he is a literal Satanist in the sense he bows down before an altar of Satan, but indirectly, he is a satanic. Oh yeah,
he does
indirectly,
worship
yes.
Satan because he
Oh, does
elevates
he?
Satan, so he does worship Satan.
Well, yeah, indirectly.
If you elevate Satan to God, we're done. You're worshiping Satan
Right, yeah.
by the simple